welcome back to the fourth episode of the Beards and Business podcast. Today, I have none other than David Slepak on with me today. My name is Anthony Pacheco. I'm your host. Today, we're going to be speaking with David Slepak. A little bit about him. He is a healthcare expert, a public speaker, as well as a writer. He has a vast background in marketing and strategies, and his mission is to fix healthcare strategies and solutions to come alongside you and actionably put in plans. And so I probably butchered that all up, David. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Anthony, thank you so much for having me on today. Really, really excited about talking about business and beards.
Awesome. Hey, David, just so that our audience knows who you are, just give us a little background about who you are, where you came from, a little bit about you.
Sure, absolutely. Grew up in the Midwest, just north of Chicago, in a very entrepreneurial family. Was mentored by my father in all sorts of different areas of business. We migrated out west in the mid to late 90s and found myself in Phoenix, Arizona, where I went to Arizona State University. Actually was a first graduate of an entrepreneurial program there. Where I got my degree in business and political science, and really have enjoyed a fantastic career, somewhat different. If you look at my resume, you'll be like, what's up with this guy? But each one has been a kind of building block and segue into the next opportunity. And as you mentioned, I have found my life's calling and passion in scaling the fixes to our broken healthcare system. And that's what I'm really focused on, and gets me up in the morning every day to make sure that I have a lasting legacy in this space.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So Midwest, huh? A little bit warmer in Arizona.
A lot warmer. Definitely lack of four seasons for sure, based in the suburbs of Chicago. But Phoenix is a great place, and no absence of sunshine, that's for sure.
Is it true they say it's a dry heat, so you kind of get used to it?
Come July, August, it's an angry heat, right? Those 100 degree days get taxing, but yeah, it's for the most part it's a dry heat. Certainly not the likes of South Florida.
Yeah, a little less humidity, right?
For sure.
Awesome. Well, hey, so tell us a little bit more about your professional life. I'm really interested to dig into the healthcare strategies and solutions that you're providing, and you have over the past, wow, I mean, what was it, over a decade, right? And so, it looks like, if you don't mind, just kind of give us a brief synopsis of your business journey from entrepreneurship all the way through the healthcare industry.
Sure. I kind of divide my career up into, we'll call it two sections, right? The first part of my career was really focused on all sorts of different luxury items and toys, if you will, right? Spent some time in the wine storage industry with a family business, did some really cool things around marketing and product development there. In 2003, founded BMW Motorcycles of Scottsdale with my brother Josh. And had a great run in the motorcycle business. Learned a lot working with BMW and Ducati and MV Agusta. What a passionate business, right? Being in the motorcycle business. And one of the things I took away from that is don't mess with people's free time, right? Fundamentally,
Absolutely.
when guys are messing with motorcycles and gals, that item is their ticket to freedom and their free time. So I learned a lot in that business around customer service and passion for the road. Also, interestingly enough, learned a lot about government contracting. Secured a lot of the police motorcycles. So if you're in Phoenix and you got pulled over by a motor officer on a BMW, my apologies, but I probably sold that bike to that motor officer, and they used it to pull you over. But great group of guys and gals on those bikes. Learned a lot about our law enforcement and some of the challenges that they deal with, and some of the opportunities right in the marketplace. So great career. and ultimately had the opportunity to move on from that. As you remember, the recession hit businesses pretty hard. Not many people in 2008 buying $30,000 and $40,000 luxury items, specifically motorcycles. Although, interestingly enough, if you remember, when gas was $4 or $5 a gallon, we had some Vespa scooters that would just fly off the shelf. Everybody, it was hilarious to see, husbands come in with their wives and they're driving, a 2,500 Ram diesel pickup truck. And they're working the deal pretty hard to be like, I need this Vespa, or I need this little KLR 650 motorcycle. It gets 50 miles to the gallon, right?
Exactly.
And it was like another justification, right, to get those bikes out the door and get another toy. It was very interesting times, unprecedented, right?
Sure.
In my career, and
do you
sold
ride?
that business actually.
Do you still
So
ride?
I haven't ridden in a long time. It's something that I just haven't reconnected with, and that was kind of a change, right? I was putting 20,000 miles on a bike a year. With all sorts of different rides and this and that, rallies all around the country. Great way to see the country on a motorcycle, right? A lot of freedom, and it's interesting when you're in a car, you miss out on some of the smells and the temperature, and you just feel the environment when you're on a motorcycle. Something that really can't be recreated in a car, right? Maybe convertible slightly. But interesting nonetheless. Sold that business, right, to Bob Parsons at GoDaddy. He was a fantastic customer of mine, and what a serial entrepreneur and overall interesting fellow. And he actually bought those motorcycle dealerships for me back in 2008. It kind of was his catalyst into the realm of motorcycles. Now I think he owns 10 or 15, maybe more bike shops all around Arizona. And certainly around the country. So pretty interesting times. Had some fantastic opportunities to work with OEM car manufacturers at Rockford Fosgate, and then really transitioned into the hearing protection, earphone, and medical device industry, which kind of started to pique my interest into healthcare. Learned a lot about how healthcare works, kind of on the medical device side, working with audiologists. And it became very clear at that point in my transition of my career that I would ultimately end up following my path into the healthcare industry. Cut my teeth on insurance at State Farm, with property and casualty, and an interesting story around that experience. I was in a study group with several State Farm agents, and a gentleman out of Minnesota, an agent, very successful one at that, said, "David, you're doing this P&C thing all wrong." And I said, "Oh, okay. Help me understand what the challenge is." He's like, "No one needs better car and auto insurance." I'm like, "Well, probably not." He's like, "It's a commodity, but here's what they need help with." And this was very insightful. This changed my mindset forever. This agent out of Minnesota said, "People need help with healthcare." And I said, "Wow. Interesting. You're right. They do need help with healthcare." And he said, "That is a value add that you can bring to the table because it's confusing, it's complex. You can help people, prevent catastrophic, financial failure, get them the care that they need, this and that." So I took that to heart and went back to my agency in Phoenix, and I said, "Yeah, I'm going to pursue this." So interestingly enough, I got licensed on the exchange, right, to sell those exchange plans, if you remember back in the day. And I dipped my toe into the Medicare supplement world to help seniors, find supplements into that space. It was very interesting, right, to help people along the way answer those questions. It's a little bit different to say, what's the right fit on health insurance, as opposed to, yeah, it's a 1530 for your car, right? With insurance. So I actually started to be pretty successful in that. And I said, you know what, my connectivity, my real passion, and really my crew, right, in Phoenix is all around small business. So I started to reach out to some of my small business customers and say, "Hey, what are you doing for employee benefits?" And some of them said, "Nothing. We can't afford health insurance, right? We can't afford to provide things." And the light went off in my head and I said, "Gosh, what an opportunity to help business owners think about delivering meaningful employee benefits. So I started to go down that road. Ultimately ended up figuring out that State Farm probably wasn't the best platform to facilitate this new direction, and started to migrate again further into the healthcare world. Ended up connecting with Single Care, and I'm sure you've seen the commercials with Martin Sheen, and their discount pharmacy program. I was one of the early folks in on that, and learned a ton about the pharmacy business. Anthony, I'm sure you know, in fact, I know you know how messed up our pharmacy and drug businesses in this country. But I learned a lot being on the inside with pharmacy benefit managers and how the systems work with pharmacies, and gathering that inside information and all the perverse incentives that come along with it, right?
Absolutely.
Gave me a ton of interesting experience in that pharmacy world, and something that, helps me today, especially when consulting and working with advisors and employers in that space. Migrated, continued into the self-funded world, and the rest is history, right? That second part of my career, really understanding what the problems are in our healthcare world, understanding the perverse incentives that drive a lot of the decisions that, quite frankly, are not to the benefit of the people that are using and purchasing healthcare. Here's the reality. You know who the users and purchasers of healthcare are in this country? Employers. They purchase healthcare. In fact, 150 million Americans today get their insurance benefits and healthcare benefits from employers. They're the tastemakers. They're the lion's share. You know who the other user is? The employees, people, right? Those are the people that are using and benefiting from insurance and need to have access to healthcare. So that's kind of a nutshell. We'll call it the 5-minute Reader's Digest, right, on my career and kind of how I've ended up. It's interesting, Anthony, because every piece along the way, from wine storage to motorcycles to car audio to OEM manufacturing to hearing protection and medical devices like hearing aids, pharmacy, has all kind of led me to this point, of which about 3.5, 4 years ago, I had this aha moment, this calling, if you will. And I hope that people in their careers experience the same satisfaction that I have received when I acknowledge that, when I embraced it. And now I'm intentional about it, right? To say, hey, look, this is something that I am serious about. And the beautiful part about it is it combines both my mission, my personal goals with my career, right? And that's really exciting.
That's really awesome. You're a marketing guy, right? That's what your degree's in. And to be able to take the knowledge of marketing to the healthcare industry, I think it's something, gets missed a lot because, especially in the healthcare space, it's always been about relationships, right? It's who do I know? Who's my, centers of influence? And those are the type of people that I go and sell a service to. And when you really start to bring in that why and start to understand, like, who are we truly serving here? We're getting back to the fundamental of the employee and the patient, right? Even when we talk about it from the employee level, when we start to focus the patient, the person that's going through a traumatic experience. They're not going to the doctor or taking medications because they want to, it's because they have to. And as we really dig into the humanity of that and just kind of how we see the way the system is designed not to take their best interest at heart, but to take a hold of the financial side of it. It's been pretty eye-opening to me, and I know it has been to you as well. And so bringing that why and just making that story very vivid was very helpful for us. So really appreciate that. Do you have right now in your current role and the marketing and the marketing side of stuff, how do you see that focus as the way that the industry is changing from, just going with a normal health insurance plan to the way that we have to market to the future of healthcare?
Yeah, it's interesting that you've asked that question, because in my opinion, marketing is really about communication, right? And effectively communicating to whoever your audience is, and oftentimes it's coupled with a value proposition, right? And could include some reasons to buy, like sales triggers, and going back to my direct marketing days and this and that. But it's all about communication. And I think, at the end of the day, the status quo around healthcare and health insurance has prospered in the cloak of darkness, in preventing access to information, by making things so complex and so convoluted that people just give up. They're like, ugh, okay, I'll just pay, or ugh, I can't do it, right? And if you look at other industries with reviews and research and all sorts of different pieces, those things are very transparent, right? I mean, go down and buy a TV, you can find all the specs and the price and everything's up front, right? It's super simple. Or a car, right? I mean, every other category of product or things that we consume has come with an expectation of knowledge, right? And healthcare has just lagged in that sense. I think the other thing that we need to acknowledge is, look, there's lots of different ways to finance healthcare, right? There's lots of different ways to finance healthcare, and consultants and advisors and employers and individuals alike need to be cognizant of those choices. Over my career, whether it be personally or professionally, over my lifetime, I guess, creating choices and understanding choices has been paramount to my success, and quite frankly, something that I take pride in delivering to others, right? No one wants to be backed into a corner. No one wants to have one choice, because that's not a choice, right? So being able to facilitate and market a conversation to somebody that is looking for a solution is important. It's really important. And doing it in a fair, transparent way, and removing all of those perverse incentives is really important. I mean, if you look at the healthcare industry today, everybody benefits by costs going up. Most advisors are paid on commission, right? Well, guess what? If you're paid 10% on $1,000 and the premium goes up to $1,200, guess who just got a raise, right? The advisor and the consultant that's getting paid on commission. In the fee-for-service world of providers, doctors are incentivized to have you come in a bazillion times, right? Because they don't get paid unless you come in. You ever notice why they have to take your height and weight? To prove that you were there. Because insurance companies do what's called an audit and a recoup, and could potentially reel back hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, from providers that don't prove that they're there. So why do you have to come in to review your lab results when it could be easily done over the phone? Well, guess what? If you do it over the phone, the provider's not going to get paid. Very challenging, very challenging. When the ACA came out, in all its insight, they instituted a 85% loss ratio rule. So insurance carriers have to spend 85 cents of every dollar on healthcare. 15% goes to administration and paying commissions and all those things. Well, guess what? If they want to make more money next year, they got to increase the premiums, because it's a percentage, right? So everybody in this industry has been aligned to benefit from increasing costs. And where I challenge consultants, advisors, healthcare plans, employers, do business with those entities that actually their financial model benefits when costs go down, right?
Right.
That's insightful,
Absolutely.
right? That's my advice.
Absolutely.
If I could leave one thing, when picking vendors, right? When picking a solution, when picking an advisor, ask the question, hey, do you profit when my costs go down? Just ask that question, really simple. And if they can answer yes, I bet that's the right person to do business with, right? I bet that's the right person to do business with.
Wow, those are some value bombs being dropped here. If you are not paying attention and taking notes, you need to rewind this. Thank you so much, David. That was extremely insightful, and I know that our listeners are going to really enjoy listening to that again. As we kind of talk about a little bit more into the business sector, could you explain a little bit, about what's going on with that face that you have there? Looks like there may be a little bit of dirt on there, maybe something growing in there.
Are you talking about beards? It's funny. As I was preparing for this podcast, I was reflecting over my lifetime, and interestingly enough, there is a very funny story about facial hair. Right. So
Cool. Please tell
interestingly
us.
enough, oh yeah, I'm going to bring you way back to 1996, 95, 96.
Okay.
I went away to college. My freshman year of college, I went to the University of Denver in Colorado. And I was very excited to be essentially in, what they call the Harvard of the Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
And as an avid skier, I was really excited to be about an hour and a half from Vail and Beaver Creek, and certainly leveraged my no classes on Friday experience with this newfound freedom in Colorado. Now, interestingly enough, coming from the Midwest, when I got to Colorado, I noticed that a lot of the people there had facial hair, right? You're in the mountains,
Sure.
You're in Colorado. And at that point, I grew a goatee. When I was 18 years old, and literally, like, parents dropped me off at college, and like the next day it was goatee time, right? And if you go back to 1996, that was the in deal, right? That was a hot
Absolutely.
gig. So from the time I was 18 years old, I had a goatee. There was one summer when I transferred from University of Denver to ASU, where I ended up graduating. There was one summer where I shaved the goatee off. It was probably 1998 or this or that. But since the beginning of my teen years, I had a goatee. So about a year ago, I noticed, man, this beard thing is really cool. And Anthony, I ended up losing a ton of weight over the last year or so, and really focusing. If I'm going to talk the talk around healthcare and access to care and this and that, I probably should get pretty healthy too, right? So started working out and doing weight training, and I said, you know what? Time for a little bit new, updated look. So I let the goatee migrate into a beard, and subsequently have been sporting it ever since for about a year. Now, here's what I found. People like it. They
That's
comment.
Awesome.
It is amazing how they are, and they knew me with a goatee, right? They knew me with a goatee, and now they know me with a beard, and the feedback has been fantastic. It's been a little bit of a learning curve. How long do I want it to grow, right? Like, do I shave my neck, right? What's this beard butter stuff, right? They keep trying to sell me. All sorts of things around it. So it's been kind of a fun process, if you will, working with it, but something that has been quite well received. And I get a lot of comments. I also changed out my glasses a couple of times. That's new as well, right? So it came part and parcel. 43 years old, never had or wore glasses. Now, man, I take these things off. I can't see a thing up close. So it's kind of come with the territory. So a little updated look, new glasses, and the beard has been fantastic and extremely well received.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's one of the questions that kind of continues to come up in the financial service industry, is the acceptance of the beard. There has been a cultural shift over these past few years, and so it's good to hear the feedback. I'm seeing a lot more business professionals sporting the beard, and so I really enjoyed that. With the goatee, had no idea that you've had a goatee since that you were 18, and so I could never grow facial hair. It's hilarious. I tried so hard whenever I was younger, and it just came in, all Joe Dirt, type style, and I just couldn't. I could never get it to fill in. And then this past year, I started a year ago, literally. Started growing my beard, and it came in. I was like, "Hey, look at that!" I had no idea that that would work out like this. So, thanks
It's
for
been
sharing that.
waiting there. It's been waiting there for you your whole life, right?
The whole life, yeah.
So, it's interesting, Anthony, because I feel like there is this revival of authenticity, right? And I think it transcends any business sectors in this country today. And I think people are at the point where they want to be authentic. Whether you're in financial services or banking or insurance or selling cars or whatever it is, right? I think that people embrace that in a little bit different way than maybe in years past. It's interesting, when I was a BMW motorcycle dealer, and obviously was on the West Coast, being in Arizona, but there was they were based in New Jersey. Even back, in the early 2000s, there was definitely, when you'd show up to events or show up to, things, there's a significant difference in, how people dress, what their attitudes were, et cetera. West Coast versus East Coast and this and that. Facial hair was probably on the top of the list. And I remember vividly a representative from BMW on the West Coast saying, "Hey, I need to get all shaved up for our visit on, to corporate on the East Coast." I don't see that in the marketplace. Maybe that's culturally at BMW, like these days, something new and exciting. I don't know. But it was interesting that was a topic of conversation as we were prepping to go back east for, some dealer meetings and this and that. One of the reps like, "I need to shave," right? I'm like, okay, I know you as this guy on the West Coast, right, with some facial hair. So I just think that there's definitely a focus on being authentic and being an individual, and certainly the beard is part of that. And I think it's
Absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely. Hey, that's a great point. I came from the country club industry in the North Dallas area, and it was interesting because when I look back at it, I don't remember very many people that had beards, and definitely beards, much less even goatees, mustache, things of that nature. I do remember one guy who was the chief fire department of the fire department, and he had a mustache. But other than that, not very many. And I remember I was a young manager, still in college, and my boss had come up to me, and he was looking at my face, and he goes, "Hey, here's $1." And I was like, "Oh, what's this for?" And he goes, "So you can go buy yourself a razor." And I took that, and I was like, "Oh, wow! Like, is this?" He's like, "Yeah, you shouldn't grow facial hair. We're in the hospitality industry." And I was like, "Interesting." He said, "Unless it's, you come in and it's completely fully grown in, but you can't grow it while you're at work. So, you take some vacation days to grow it or something like that, then that's fine." And so, I think that has kind of played in, our perception is really all we have, right? Our past experiences and kind of what we're looking at in the future. And so, I think that kind of stuck with me for a long time. And so clean shaven always meant that I was, dressed to impress, ready to roll. And so, yeah, it's just very unique, all the different experiences depending on where you were in life and kind of your experiences along the way.
It's interesting as you kind of talk about that and kind of that scruffy look, right? I mean, you've almost seen an evolution, if you will, right?
Mm.
And if you look to Hollywood or, the fashion industry or this or that, and flip back a couple of years, maybe a little longer, and you see kind of that scruffy kind of day two unshaven look, right? And
Right.
I've watched it kind of evolve. I love fashion and clothing and shoes, and I get into that sort of thing, and I really enjoy kind of watching culturally what's happening in the marketplace and whatnot. But you saw that, right? Like kind of that scruffy look, but I think it's evolved, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this works. Let's go 3 days, let's go a week, let's go a month, and next thing you know, you got a full beard, and it's pretty cool. And I think again, there's a level of authenticity that comes along with it, and a level of acceptance, that I think is fantastic, right? I think it's fantastic. I think another thing that has become mainstream, and I don't have any, but the whole concept of tattoos,
Mm-hmm.
and that has, I see kind of a parallel there of people's individuality, and migration into that sector of the world. I don't know as much about it as beards, obviously, but over the years, I have definitely seen and experienced folks that are, they have full sleeves and they're a
Mm-hmm.
business executive, and
Sure.
that's totally fine. So I think that's cool, right? Everyone has a different interest, different whatever, and not be, judge people on the content of their character, right? As
Absolutely.
opposed to, other things out there. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. I almost saw it as like the Steve Jobs era, right? So when you think about like the progression of business, Steve Jobs comes out in tennis shoes, blue jeans, a black t-shirt, and somewhat of a small 2-day unshaven look. I mean, not to say that he didn't shave, but that was kind of that era, and kind of the progression of, hey, if he can do it, why can't I do it? And so it was kind of fun. The
I like it. I like that analogy. Yeah, I could totally see that. Although, look, man, I don't know how he sported that mock turtleneck gig, right, with the beard. Like, that'd get itchy.
For me, no way.
I don't
Yeah.
own a turtleneck. I don't think I could own a turtleneck. I really won't be buying any turtlenecks, and I certainly wouldn't wear one with facial hair.
Yeah, you'd be lathered up with that butter. Well, awesome. Hey, man, it's been a blast talking about beards. Last thing I always ask is just, is there anything going on in your life right now that you want to talk about? Any type of promotions, anything of that nature that are coming up?
We continue to push the envelope, and work with consultants and advisors, specifically on scaling those fixes to the healthcare industry, right? I think there's lots of pillars there. The first is increasing access to care. And you and I have had this conversation many times in the past. Access to care and building any sort of solution on a primary care foundation just makes sense, and is the right thing to do for people to make sure that they can get the care that they need. I think transparency is so important, and paying the fair price for things, and building structures, right, on employee benefit plans that give an employer the ability to tailor those plans specifically to their employees, right? And that's the beautiful part about kind of this self-funding world and unbundled TPA world, where you can liberate an employer. And I don't care if you're 2 employees or 2,000 or 20,000, it really doesn't matter. Those are things that are really, really important. Get rid of all of the things in your plans, people in your plans, et cetera, vendors in your plans that aren't aligned with you as the users and purchasers of healthcare, right? If the vendors don't win financially by making your costs go down, don't win financially by making it transparent, don't win financially, then you're dealing with the wrong people, right? You want to buy and do business with people that are aligned with the same interests is you, right? So super excited about working with the folks here at 6 Degrees and their reference-based pricing solutions. This again is a movement that is taking the country by storm, and really turning the tide in, mitigating healthcare costs, but really putting businesses and employers and healthcare plans on a 10-year road, right, to bend the cost curve. It's amazing to me how many employers and brokers and consultants, well, it's only a 10% increase this year. We got an 18% increase this year, but we negotiated down to 9. And I mean, look, it doesn't have to be that way. Here's the thing, go ask providers. Here's the telltale, go ask a provider. Hey, Mr. Provider, are you getting reimbursed more or less than 5 years ago. And I can guarantee you, every doctor in America is getting reimbursed and making less money than they were 5 years ago. So how, with that, if the cost of healthcare and they're getting paid less, why are you paying more? I don't get that, right? I just don't understand that sense of how this works. But we're on a mission to solve that and fix that, and it's all about communication. It's all about transparency. This is a very, very, very small community, and I am blessed to have surrounded myself with people that are far smarter than I am, right? Like you.
I don't know about that.
The Health Rosetta folks and Q4I and all these other entities where they're think tanks and brokers and consultants and advisors that are all moving in the right direction. Dave Chase, Dave Contorno, and others, Lester Morales. These are all gentlemen that I've been blessed to meet, and I have learned a ton around it. Carl Schuessler down in Florida. I mean, these are guys that get it. And if you're a young advisor out there, consultant, an employer, surround yourself with people, right? In fact, Anthony, you commented on a LinkedIn reply that I made that you've been successful and you had a mentor. Tell me the story, right? You had a mentor when you were 26 or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, one of my mentors, he said, surround yourself with 5 people that you want to spend the most time with because that are more successful than you. I mean, he basically said, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're being pretty dumb. You should be the dumbest person in the room so that you're always gleaning off of other people. And so if you're always spending time with people that are more successful than you, then your success will only rise. And so that is definitely something I've taken to heart. And I always want to surround myself with people that are way more successful, way smarter than I am, because that's just going to grow me as a person and help me where I'm weak. And so that's pretty much where that came from.
I love it. I agree 100%. I think the other thing specific to our industry, or at least the industry that I have embraced and passionate about is, look, this is a fight, right? Healthcare is not easy. Healthcare is pretty messy. And when you're blazing new paths, when you're fighting the status quo, when you're working to the benefit of the users and purchasers of healthcare, it's going to get bloody, right? And the other thing that I have found extreme comfort in is surrounding myself with people that also are on the same mission. And, firm believer in high tide raises all boats. Even helping a potential competitor that's in the same mindset and same mission is a value, right, to the overall goal of solving healthcare. So, as we continue to scale the fixes, we know what they are. This isn't rocket science, man. We know what those fixes are. It's just scaling them, right? It's just scaling them and building enough momentum, communicating effectively, showing the value proposition, giving people the confidence that they can take care of themselves and their families, right? Think about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a really important piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. I think that's a great wrap up too, because, at the end of the day, like you said, where are we focused at? And, I love the call out to advisors because, so many times we get stuck in silos, right? Where we want to, hold on to our strategies and solutions that we found instead of, giving those out to others to grow and to get past that tipping point to where we can get to that early majority. I mean, there's this point, on the law of diffusion of innovation where once you get past that tipping point, like it's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? I mean, everybody's looking for it. And it's like, just come on, let's come help you instead of, trying to drag people along to, help them see what it is that they're actually doing to families and their employees. And so really, really appreciate that. Hey, David, thank you so much for being on the show. And, the best of luck to you. I look forward to working with you more in the future and really appreciate you being on.
Anthony, thank you so much. Really enjoyed the conversation this morning and looking forward to connecting in the future. Yeah.
future.